Hey everybody, it's Rabbi Pollen. Welcome back to the Light Unto the Nations show. We have a very interesting show for you. We're going to do something that we've never done before. We're going to do a debate. And my mentor was actually against debate because he felt that it's not a way towards getting to the truth. To get to the truth, you have to cooperate, you have to get together, you have to have synthesis and find the truth in both sides. But in this case, I think it's necessary to sort of debate. And unfortunately, the person that I would be debating is no longer alive. It's George Garlin, George Carlin, however it's pronounced. And he was one of the greatest comedians ever. But he was an atheist. And sometimes his atheism leaked into his comedy routine. And we have to be wary of that because atheists use his routines to as a weapon against believers. And he makes tremendously good points. He's a very, very bright, incisive individual. And we have to take on what he said and explain the viewpoint of the religious person, explain the viewpoint of the believer. So we're going to go through one of his routines, and we're going to recognize that since he passed away, he has no chance to retort. So give him credit for the fact that he would have a chance to retort should he be here. And what he says is funny, very funny, but also very dangerous because atheists use it, again, as a weapon. So we're going to go through line by line on a short section of his comedy routine. And he says that in the BS department, businessmen can't hold a candle to clergymen. Now, this is me talking. I think he has it backwards. Clergymen spend 24/7 to find ways to help people, to inspire people, to give people more meaning. The clergy know they'll never be rich. They've given up on that dream, even though they're very intelligent and it's possible they would be great businessmen, would be great entrepreneurs. But they follow the path that they think is right. They follow their heart and they follow their belief. They follow their faith. Businessmen traditionally will do anything to make a buck. They're just doing whatever it takes to make money. That's just the whole purpose of a businessman. And his only oversight for his ethics is usually his own pocketbook and just the fact that he might turn people off if he does something unjust or unfair. But they are responsible, like Madoff, for some atrocious crimes. And I think you could match up the average businessman and the average clergy, and the clergy would win out every time when it comes to morality and ethics, even though clergy has its flaws, clergy has its vices. Um, Saturday or Sunday, when other people are just watching football, they are giving inspiration to people who badly need it. And we're asked in heaven, were you honest in business? And we're told that you get to sit in a special chair if you were. We're also told that that chair is very dusty. Barely anyone gets to sit there. But the ones who have a chance of sitting there are the clergy because they are not working with a profit motive. Businessmen have endless opportunities to bend the law, whether it be a lawyer coercing someone for documents or a dentist overcharging for a procedure, and we all know how dishonest mechanics are. So I think he has it backwards. George Carlin says, because when it comes to the major league BS, we stand in awe of the all-time champions of false claims and false promises, religion. It has easily the greatest BS story ever told. So I take issue with that. I don't think it's the most BS story ever told, meaning the Bible. I think the Bible is the most well corroborated, the giving of the Bible is the most well corroborated event in the history of humankind because it is the one event that was witnessed by 3 million people, 600,000 people from 20 to 60, from professors to philosophers and everything in between. I mean, professors and beggars all saw the same thing and all agreed on the same thing that was passed down in an unbroken chain until us today with a document that has never changed, cannot be changed, If it's changed even one part of one letter, it is totally disqualified, even though it's worth thousands and thousands of dollars. But that is the power that the revelation at Sinai has behind it. Everything that it says has this power of validity, whether it be the splitting of the sea or the coming down of the manna or the wars against Amalek. All the stories recorded there were repeated, told to Moses, who told it to the Jews, and was recorded in the actual Torah, which is totally unchanged until today. There were never fewer than a few million people believing in these stories. And we have other books like the Haggadah, which records the coming out, the Exodus from Egypt. Um, these stories give us lessons every day. Every day, millions of people gain lessons from these stories that help them in their life, and it gives them meaning. And meaning is the most important thing to have in your life. And if you want to understand why, read Viktor Frankl, the Search for Meaning, I believe it's called. And we actually talk about a master plan, not just your specific little life that you focus on and you have a myopic experience of your own life, but a master plan that we are a part of. And the comedian named George Carlin says to this that they're convinced that there is an invisible man in the sky watching everything you do every single second of every single day. He thinks it's foolish to believe in a God that's actually watching you. And the truth is, God is invisible, but everything is invisible except for what you're looking at right now. Absolutely everything is invisible. And certain things prove that it has something else that exists that is not within your range. And that's more accurate. It's not invisible, it's just not within your range right now. But if a baseball is flying and you see it flying through the air, you know through your experiences that there's a batter with a bat and he took a swing. You know all these things, even though you didn't actually see him, but you can see what demands that he must exist and that he must have done certain things. And when we look at the galaxies and we look at the complexity of a cell, we look at the complexity of DNA, we look at the complexity of an eye, we look at how it all works together synergistically. We can't say that just happened by itself. We can't just say it happened through evolution over billions of years, because even in billions of years, you can never, ever on your own come up with something like the human eye or DNA. It just couldn't come together that way so perfectly and run so well. It's telling me that an IBM computer just popped out after billions of years. It just popped up an IBM computer. Well, the human body is much more complex than the IBM computer, and it certainly didn't just pop out. It's like the baseball that's flying. We know because we can see the complexity of the body and how well it's built that there must have been something with intelligence that did it. There must be a God. And God is watching what we do. Genesis 28:15, God says, I am with you and I will watch over you wherever you go. I will be with you until you come back to this land. I will not leave you until I have given you what I promised you. So, indeed, God is watching us all the time. And the better a person you are, the less it bothers you that God is watching you. If you are a bad person, you are very concerned that God is watching you and that there is accountability. There is nothing to be ashamed of from the fact that God is watching you, because your urges and your negative vices are given to you by God. Those are His vices. Those are His urges. Those are this porn that we people see is His porn, and He created it and He invented it. He is everything. He is involved in absolutely everything. So this is all Him. You're constantly experiencing Him. And when you build a real relationship with God through prayer and through good deeds, you start to become a lot more comfortable with the fact that God is watching you all the time. It's not easy to accept. I understand that's not easy to accept. Nobody wants to be watched all the time by something, but that is the fact that God tells us in the Bible. And we have to deal with that and become a better person so we're happy and we're proud of everything that we do. Would we all be better off if he wasn't watching? If there was no accountability whatsoever? How much worse, how much more fallen would the world be? How much more immoral would it be if it was known there was no accountability, that God has just created the world and just left it? People would be going crazy out there. People would be indulging their every urge. So yes, God's watching because he wants what's best for us. George Carlin said it's an invisible man, and he has a little list and a special place that he's going to take you if you don't follow this list of things to do, or the things that you can't do. And there's going to be burning and torture and anguish and choking until the end of time. But he loves you. He also says he's all perfect, but he just can't deal with money because he always needs more money. So obviously he's just joking, because when you give to a synagogue and you know you're giving to a synagogue, you're not giving to God himself so he can take care of himself. God doesn't need an apartment. God doesn't need a car. We know we're not giving to God. Everyone knows that. So we're not going to even entertain the idea that God is not good with money. We don't know how God handles money. We've never seen him. Nobody's ever seen him directly. And he is truly perfect. That's what the Bible tells us. He says there's 10 things that we cannot do. There are actually 5 things that we can do in the 10 commandments and 5 things we must not do. And would you rather that we not have these basic morality laws put in stone? Shouldn't it be in stone that you're not allowed to murder? Shouldn't it be in stone that you're not allowed to commit adultery? Shouldn't it be in stone that you have to honor your parents? Isn't it better that we have that stuff in stone and that it's eternal than not having it? What would the world look like if we didn't have the 10 commandments? Because it's very interesting, but experiments were done by people who were given tests, 4,000 people, and the tests were designed for them to actually cheat. It was to encourage cheating. And what they did it one time, and they cheated a certain amount of times, and they had them read the 10 commandments and then do it again. And they were still cheating, but the cheating went way down. And so if you want less cheating in this world, you want the 10 commandments. You want to have them in stone. Um, he's talking about the punishment of fire and choking and smoke. And a lot of this is based on Christianity. Christianity is based on Judaism. So Judaism is actually the authentic religion. And Judaism does not maintain that there is a hell like that there is a physical hell like that. We are out of our bodies in that stage. We are souls, and you cannot feel physical pain. But what you can feel is like what happens when you are embarrassed. When you realize you've done something wrong, you're embarrassed, your face turns red. So that's the redness of hell. When you realize the things you did wrong in this world and how you squandered some of the most unbelievable opportunities, you are so ashamed that you turn red, your soul turns red, and you are not able to handle this comfortably. It's beyond your comfort zone, and that's the hell. It's so bad. This opportunity lost and damage done to yourself, to others. We don't realize how much impact we have. Like the coronavirus, one sneeze affects the whole world. So we may have affected the entire world with something that we did, and we had no idea that we were affecting the entire world. And how will you feel when you know that, sort of like what he does to the audience at the end of this routine? He says that God should strike everyone down. But if we say something negative to someone, it could be passed along to another one and affect the entire world. And how embarrassed will we be when we realize that? How embarrassed will we be that when we realize that we could have brought the entire redemption of the entire world, but we didn't? That's hell. And hopefully you will never be there, because you're watching these videos and you know what to do. You know how to make your life into a blessing. So there's no smoke, no fire. There's a realization of the sin itself. There's the realization that we wasted our time, we wasted our life, and the whole world was depending on us, and that hurts like hell. It's not a ploy to get money, not according to Judaism. At least that's what I can speak for. I can speak for Judaism because that's my religion. That's who I am. It's a story to make us further from sin. And the society is better when it's filled with holy people, God-fearing people. There would be a lot more good in this world, a lot more charity, a lot less hunger, a lot less pain. He says, but he loves you. And yes, he does. Every atom, the way it's constructed, its beauty, tells us that he loves us. The sunset, the beauty of it, tells us that he loves us. The perfect shapes of the spheres. How did they get so perfect? Again, evolution. You're telling me everything turned out in a perfect sphere due to evolution. It doesn't make any sense. It's love. It's clearly a painting that he has painted for us that is nature itself and our body itself and the way we all come together ourselves. And so the shoe is on the other foot. What we actually have is a tremendous amount of love, and it's obvious if you have eyes to see. Carlin says we have the kinds of false promises and false claims that you wouldn't find anywhere else. Well, let's look at another way. God has brought a moral compass into the world, and we're the bearers of false claims. I mean, the whole fact that you can't steal is because it's in stone on the Ten Commandments that you can't steal. So everything that you do, whether you're within the bounds of morality or not, I mean, how do we even know there are bounds to reality, to morality? It's because of the Bible. So don't tell me we make false claims. The fact that claims even could be false is due to the Bible, is due to religion. Near-death experiences have been recorded in scientific journals like the Lancet, and it makes very good sense to believe in them. It makes very good sense to realize that you're ultimately going to a very good place and that bad people are going to a bad place, which makes perfect sense. Why would it be any other way? Um, as we said, there's no scriptural support for the screaming and crying and choking. It's more a realization that's very embarrassing. And that's like the hot shower that you go into before you are taken to heaven. So you are just basically getting the muck off yourself. So you are ready for the next level. So you are ready for heaven. You don't want to walk into a banquet with dirty clothing on. So you got to get cleaned up. You got to go through that embarrassment. You got to go through that realization and become a better person until you're ready to join everyone who understands what's really going down. The Ten Commandments are kindness. It's a fast track that it's a kindness that God made it just 10 rules that we can follow. It's a fast track towards becoming whole in the eyes of God. And your real issue definitely is not that there are 10 commandments or one commandments or 50 commandments. It's the idea that someone outside of you is telling you what to do and what not to do. Nobody likes their freedom constricted. But we are clearly children of God, and our zygote did not become a baby by natural selection. That can't just happen by itself. The odds of that are just astronomical. There is a higher power involved. We are God's children. And just like a father with a boy, Father God must give us limits and tell us what to do, give us boundaries and give us direction. So we need this direction. Yes, we don't like to be told what to do, but a little kid doesn't like to be told what to do either. But it's good for him. He needs these limits. He needs these rules. He needs to be told what to do if he's going to grow up healthy and safe. He says that religion is a scam, but I can only speak for Judaism, and the hell situation that they threaten people with is a cleansing process, and it's not a punishment. There's even a break to hell on Saturday. On Saturday, the soul goes to heaven and enjoys that, and gets a break from all the embarrassment. Supercomputer works in the in so many cases. And God has revealed himself to us in the past, and he says, I've loved you with an everlasting love. And Garland says he needs money. Synagogues, we've said, are maybe bad at handling money. That's possible, but there's no evidence that God is bad at handling money. And a church or a synagogue needs basic expenses: the salary of the rabbi, the secretary, the community food, the convention halls. Um, Now, Garland says that we get it all tax free. And while he is like making fun of the fact that it's tax free or calling us out for the fact that it's tax free, he's really ignorant because there's a Supreme Court case named Walt versus the city of New York. And it says that by not taxing the churches, it creates a separation between church and state. It's actually better for them not to tax it, and the um, ability to tax is the ability to destroy. So they could, a certain government could come into power and tax churches and synagogues out of existence. So we don't want that. We don't want to destroy religion because of all the good that it does. And Garland says that he's really tried to believe in God, but when he sees the floods, the earthquakes, and the tornadoes, etc., he is not impressed. So I would say look at like a basketball player. If he shoots like 28 out of 29 from the field, it would be like the best game he ever had. But he missed one. He missed one. Well, how many times did winds interact and not create a hurricane? That's what you have to think about. You have to think about how it happens every single day that it's done right. And the few times that it's done wrong, you're focusing on that 0.00001% and labeling God with incompetence. And it takes some faith. If faith was easy, everyone would have it. But faith is difficult, and we know who's righteous because we know that the righteous see the hurricanes and the earthquakes, and they believe in God anyway. And they're believing in God even though it doesn't make sense sometimes. But 99.9% of the time, things go right, and we all know how unbelievable nature is. Um, Also, the afterlife fixes up a lot of the things that went wrong over here. So if somebody died and who was innocent in the afterlife, he could have great reward, and that would sort of balance out everything that's going on. We have proof there's an afterlife, and the afterlife makes it so that things become more fair again, and you might realize that things are actually exactly fair. But he says if there is a God, most would agree he's incompetent. He found the sun, and he said, unlike other gods, he can see the sun. He started to worship the sun because he can see it. And this reminds me of a story of a Soviet teacher, and the Soviets were trying to stamp out religion and especially Judaism. And he was in a classroom, teacher, and he said, can everybody see the chalkboard? Yes. Why is that? Because it exists. Can everybody see the desk? Yes. Why is that? Because it exists. Can everybody see the grass outside? Yes, because it exists. And one Jewish kid from the back got up and said, can everybody see the teacher's brains? Everybody said, no. He said, because it doesn't exist. Again, like the baseball. You can just look at the baseball and you can just say, it batted itself. It hit itself. That's what like evolution is saying. It just did it to itself. Or you can say, someone did it. Someone with a bat did it. Looking at the world, it's clear that someone with a bat did it. Um, if you worship the sun and you think that created everything, then it's sort of like the Soviet teacher in that your brains have sort of fallen out. You're sort of lacking brains. If you were to worship the sun, you would have to also worship the moon because the moon goes up and the sun goes down at night. And so, where does the moon get its power from? It has a tremendous number of watts between the moon and the sun. And where do those watts come from? And if you keep tracing it back, you're doing exactly what Abraham did when he became the first Jew. He traced back everything in nature to what is the ultimate source, and you wind up with is the ultimate source is something invisible, something you can't see, but it's the baseball that's flying. You know that there is a God. Sun gives you occasional skin cancer, he says. But the sun, I would point out, has produced no miracles. We have no record of any miracles the sun has done. The only thing that it did was stop in the middle of the sky in the times of Joshua, but that was Joshua's miracle, not the sun's miracle. He made it happen. The sun itself um, did not do anything. He says that he worships the sun because the sun never tells him that he's unworthy. And the Bible never said that either. Maybe certain pastors said that, and that's wrong. We need to remember that we are all children of God, and we are infinitely valuable. We have a soul that is a piece of God, actually. And he says that the sun treats you fine, but I say, but it doesn't give you a purpose. So he says he wouldn't worship the sun on Sunday or Saturday because that's no way to treat a friend, to pray to them on the weekends. Um, the divine plan. He talks about the divine plan because it's been refined over billions of years. God has a divine plan. How can you pray? How can you possibly pray for something if some Joe Schmo can just change the entire divine plan? How does that work? How can God be so great and people who are so little can just change everything? He thinks here he has a new problem that nobody has thought of. This has actually been thought of by many philosophers, Jewish and non-Jewish, and I will give you the answer that I believe will be given in the time of the Messiah, the Hasidic answer, the answer of Hasidic philosophy, and it goes like this. We have a core, we have an essence, we're one with God. And at that level, our plans and God unite. We have a meeting of the minds. If we would truly get in touch with our essence of what we really, really, really want, we would find out that it's the exact same thing that God wants. The situation that you have now is exactly the situation that you really want if you get through all the garbage, if you get through all the external layers. He says that he prays to Joe Pesci because someone he can see and he's powerful and he can solve problems with a baseball bat. He can get stuff done. But who makes Joe Pesci's heart beat? Who made his zygote turn into an entire human being? Possible. You could call on Joe Pesci and he might do nothing. But it's obviously just a joke, not meant to be taken very seriously. And he says, for people who believe in the Bible, you might like the Three Little Pigs. Um, you might like Humpty Dumpty. You'll get lessons from there. But it's obviously not the same thing. Humpty Dumpty will not teach you about what to do when your ox scores another ox, what to do if you are rebellious against your parents, what to do when you have a servant, how you should treat him, and just 613 commandments is what you get out of the Bible. You get maybe one lesson from Humpty Dumpty, if you get any lessons at all. Then he ends off with the finale. He says, if there's a God, may he strike this audience dead. And then nothing happens. Well, something did happen because in an audience that big, some of them believe in God and some of them believe that our words have power. And what you did was wrong. It was wrong to do that. You definitely made some people uncomfortable. You definitely gave people a negative aura. You give them a negative energy. And it's true. It's not part of God's plan that they all die. They don't deserve that. It's not what's meant to happen. But yet you wish that upon them, and nothing happens because you are not on a level where you are connected with your inner purpose. So you made a whole theater of people uncomfortable. So everything you said in this comedy bit is not just untrue. At the end, you made it just simply not right. Okay. Again, he has no chance to respond. I'm sure he would respond with some smart things, and I would respond with some smart things in retort. But this is what it is. I think that my arguments are superior. I think we've vindicated religion and God, and made it more logical, and made it more sound, and it makes a lot more sense than this comedy bit. May George Carlin's soul be elevated in heaven so he can see his mistakes, and from there quickly go on to enjoying eternal paradise, because that's what I wish for you, George. And I wish you a life or a death, a time of gaining true wisdom about God, learning from God himself. God bless.